Is Steve already down there? Yeah, he probably is, huh? There he is. Seems we're all present and accounted for. You ready to start your day, T-Rex? Jump 3 times if you are. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's go. It's a brisk one. There's still some snow on the ground. It did some melting yesterday, but less melting than I thought with the temperature in the lower 40s. You know why? You know why the snow's not melting faster? It's because the ground was so cold before it started snowing. Steve, what do you see? What are you chasing? So yeah, the snowpack is here to stay for a while because it's getting colder before it gets warmer. And I know it's not much of a snowpack here, but it's more than we thought we were going to have from a week ago. And I think in a week, we're going to have more than we thought from this week if things work out the way we're thinking. What are we thinking? We're thinking it's blue sky here in southern New England, but it's still snowing in northern New England. Let's show a little different one this morning. Cannon Mountain. This one's for you, Ross and Weir, on the road to the Cannonball Express. I got this image just before the lifts open, but it was spinning. You go to the Mount Washington website, and you can also get web cameras from Wildcat and Canon. And it's day 14 in a row with New England snow on Mount Washington this morning. You have a typical atmosphere where it's much warmer at the base of the mountain than the summit of the mountain. So it's a steep lapse rate from 3 at the top to, 23 at the bottom. That's low barometer cold, it's unstable, and it snows most of the day in the mountains, and the wind on Mount Washington gusting to 58 miles per hour. So that's interrupting the ski lifts, I know, in some spots, especially Jay Peak this morning. The Bonnie chair is loading. It looked like a blizzard overnight last night at Jay. And overachiever at Jay reporting a foot of new snow. Cannon got 2. And I got this image from the Stowe web camera right when they were tipping the board over. It's an automatic thing. They don't do it. It's a machine. This morning, it looks like about 5 inches at Stowe. So why couldn't I get the powder when I was there? T-Rex, where are you going? T-Rex is on walkabout. Lots of prints. We'll talk about that later. So did you see the moon last night? It came up as the sun was going down, and then our famous photographers that we use here and we love on X posted first when the moon ate Mars. That's what some people were calling it. You got to look really closely. Rob Wright in Lee, New Hampshire, chased for a clear sky and got there in time. There goes Mars, 60 million miles away behind the moon, which is 250,000 miles away. So that's why Mars looks so small. Mars is about twice the diameter of the moon, but it was so far away, right? And so it went behind the moon about 8 o'clock and then came back out around midnight between 12 and 1. And Scott Dunlop was there, and he used the zoom lens last night. Scott, beautiful shot of the moon and Mars emerging from the backside of the moon. So we had an occultation, or whatever you want to call it. I call it, it was eclipse of Mars last night. And tonight, when the moon comes up, it's going to be a little bit later, and Mars is already going to be up. So Mars comes up tonight about 5:30, then the moon will come up about 6, and the moon will chase Mars across the sky. And I did see the moon coming down over Boston this morning, so share a picture of that. Yeah, it's only an iPhone, and iPhones don't do that well, but it was so fun seeing the lights reflecting off the buildings in Boston as the moon was still up, the sunlight as it came up in the west. All right, so what's the forecast? Well, we're going to do what we did yesterday. We're going to stick with the Canadian model because it's the only one that's been consistent with our next possible storm in a week, and it makes sense compared to what we were thinking was going to happen. T-Rex, stop, please. Please. No, Rex. So first we'll use the Canadian using the meteogram, that weather.us meteogram, which now goes out 15 days. And you can see the temperature going down today with the cold air advection. Rex, please. And the temperature stays below freezing right through about Thursday night, Friday, and then it starts going up a little bit of a warm front Friday night. It shows a raindrop or a snowflake on Friday night into Saturday. And then new cold comes in here, and then right on schedule, there's Monday, January 20th. It starts snowing, and it keeps on snowing into Tuesday, the 21st. So we may have a 24-hour snowfall if the Canadian is right. More on that in a minute. I kind of forgot to show you the temperature map this morning, and cold air advection from the southwest. It was 5 to 10 degrees in Ohio and Pennsylvania. Lake effect snow is going on in the teens in New York, and it's in the 20s in Vermont and New Hampshire. So we have colder air coming in from the southwest We've talked about that a bunch of times this season. And I think if you look at the surface map, you'll understand why. It is a rather unusual looking surface map. Sort of a polar front went through late last night and this morning, and now there's an Arctic boundary. It just shows up as strung out few low pressure systems from Nova Scotia to about Montreal, and that orange dashed line is a surface trough. And look at the kink in the isobars, the black line. See how they're kind of bent from upper right to left and then down to the right, and that kink in the isobars is convergence. Wind from the north on the north side of that line, wind from the south on the south side, and then you've got this sort of dented high pressure system over Minnesota where it's about 10 to 20 below zero, and then that other high off to the south. And so all that is a bunch of force bunching, I call it, when the air is coming together at the surface and what's the word? Difluent aloft. I'm sorry, I'm looking for it. Difluence aloft, confluence at the surface makes it snow. So heavy lake effect snows, and it keeps on snowing in the upslope regions of New York, northern Vermont, and northern New Hampshire, maybe even all the way over to Sugarloaf today with that trough. So that's the current situation. All right, and I showed the weather.us meteogram. T-Rex sniffing things out. I'll show you what T-Rex is really barking at coming over here in a few minutes after we go to the Canadian and do the day-by-day, play-by-play. So there's our Arctic front. It's an Arctic front, and it's getting colder here in the northeast, and the snow showers continue in the mountains and then abate tomorrow. And then we have high pressure going to our south, very cold, probably record cold in the southeastern United States underneath that high, and just as cold as it's been all season here in the northeast. And then a low pressure system goes to our north Friday night into Saturday with some scattered snow showers or even rain showers possible, as it's going to warm up briefly on Friday into Saturday before the new cold front presses in. And then it's just a huge expanse of Arctic cold and real strong high pressure from the North Pole going into much of the United States, and it just keeps on pressing farther and farther south. Now we're going to stop it again on January 20th. We'll do it Monday at 7 p.m. Wow, wow, wow. There's a cold front headed south through the Gulf of Mexico. There are waves of energy. A couple of waves will have missed us over the weekend, but then there's one coming right up along the mid-Atlantic states into New England. It begins to snow steadily if this Canadian verifies. It's the only one that's been consistent, by the way. The GFS has been waffling all over the place, and the Euro has just given up. The Euro was the first one to even give me the hint on this, but the Euro now says it's just going to be cold and dry. But the Canadian says it's going to snow. Now we'll put it back into motion and keep it going. It keeps on snowing. Another low develops over the benchmark, so multiple waves of low pressure south of New England, not like one low we can track. And then we'll stop at Tuesday now, and that's a 1061 millibar high pressure system over Colorado. Come on. And those blue lines goes down to 490 decameters, just pure harsh Arctic air covering most of the nation with that system here in the northeast. And it's still snowing with a 10-something high, 1030-something high north of us. And even though the low's not that strong to our south, it is a strong northeast wind, and it's going to be howling and snowing hard in a lot of New England for close to 24 hours. And please stop. I know we have a lot of critters. I'm almost there. I'll talk about the critters in a moment. Are we amused? Are you not amused? I'm not. Here's now taking it out 240 hours all the way to the end of this. Now goes out to, let's see, Thursday the 23rd, I think is the day it stops. And at that point, the whole country is covered in Arctic air. So is Canada. Those thickness numbers are just crazy. The 510 is the Arctic front, and it goes 504, 498. Tell me if you've heard this one before. 492, 486, and even lower than that. Just incredible Arctic air across most of Canada and most of the United States. And there's a low way down there off the coast of Mexico. That would be our next possible big weather maker. With snow maybe all the way down into North Florida. I know we've shown a lot of forecast maps with the snow down in North Florida, and they haven't verified. So the snow, I mean, it's been pretty far south. It did snow in Arkansas, and so we're going to be seeing some historic weather, it looks like, coming in to close out January and probably open up February. All right, I guess that should do it for the weather part of this. We're at 10 minutes. And T-Rex, what are you barking at? Now, I noticed these prints. Look at these prints. All right. This is not a T-Rex print. Rex, come here and show us your prints. Rex, come here. Walk along right here next to these prints. Thank you. Thank you. All right. See the difference? Those ones are bigger, much bigger than T-Rex prints, aren't they? I believe that's probably a coyote. I think that's a coyote print. And then there's other tracks around here, other smaller tracks. You can see those and those. And anyhow, I don't know if you came here for all the different tracks. That looks like, I'm not sure what that one is. Maybe a T-Rex track. Anyhow, that's what T-Rex is barking at. And TK is getting pretty cold, and you probably want to do some other things. We could keep on moving. Tim, what's the end more from yesterday? A tanker. We saw it just entering the harbor when the out the door ended yesterday. So I did a time lapse of that tanker. I think it was called Westminster. And then I went down to the boatyard and I checked out some of the saltwater ice. And yeah, the saltwater ice is going to be building, and we're going to have some of the most ice we've seen since at least, I can't remember last time. When I lived in Scituate, I saw a couple of seasons there where Scituate Harbor was frozen, and Scituate Harbor will freeze. And we're going to have a lot of saltwater ice here too. Look at that. Something huge, huge coming in. Another tanker coming in. That one looks big, so maybe we'll see that in tomorrow's time lapse. So that's Hull right there. And then there's the fort in Hull, and then there's the Hull gut. And so I'll leave you with that tanker coming through, and then the Burt's boatyard last evening. Talk to you tomorrow. Wow, it sounds really loud compared to other times. It's because there's an inversion in the sound. It goes more sideways than attenuates. Here's a tanker incoming through the Hull gut. Looks like there's a little bit of ice there in the channel. I think it should not be a problem. The altocumulus clouds are increasing. A warm front combination cold front today. There's Steve. And let's do a time lapse of the tanker. How about a wide frame? Now that's a wide frame. That's a half zoom, about one zoom. All right, so we can watch the tanker get bigger and the clouds moving and maybe some planes going by. $11 a.m. That was only 20 minutes. The sky went from blue to gray. STI Westminster. Sounds kind of English, doesn't it? Should have made one with Steve popping around. All right, I got an idea. Why don't we try and get the tanker taken off? Walking with a tripod in my hand now. With Steve kind of bouncing around in the foreground. Let's try that. Steve might want to come in. You can tell if he walks toward us. Yeah. Maybe he does. And I think he does. In the door. Fun taking a ride through the boatyard in the winter. All our summer toys up here, landlocked. Let's see how good the brakes are. Did that make you nervous?
Yeah.
Nothing to worry about. It's four-wheel drive. Out the door. So this is basically fairly salty, but fairly brackish. Oh, it's pretty hard, actually. Harder than I thought it was going to be. So today's a little defrost. It's in the low 40s, but without the sunshine, not as much melting as we would have had. And then new cold air comes back in, so we're gonna start building this ice back up a bit. Now we may be able to walk across in a few days. You know where we are? Bert's low tide. The birds look nice and calm. Let's play that same game again. See how far we can go without skidding into the water.
No. This is dangerous.
Neat. There's the Wessagusset docks. So it looks like this ice is about 3 to 4 inches, and it stacks up on itself too. It's pretty hard for saltwater ice though right now. Thinking I can almost walk on it. What do you say we give it a try? Don't try this at home. It's a little slickery. Something's been walking out here, huh? Got some tracks. I think those are tracks. Can't tell. All right, I'm just about to where the water is now. Just about, not quite. No, I think I'm still in the mud. So as high as the tide gets on a full moon, it gets that low. And there's that tanker we got the time lapse of earlier in the day, right over there. Technically, that's the Quincy shipyard, looking over Quincy, and then Braintree's over in that direction. We're just gonna walk out here for a few seconds until we fall through. All right, I believe I'm not quite to the water. Pretty close though. I've fallen through the ice plenty of times in my life. That's the summer bar for the Wessagusset Yacht Club right there. I almost walked. Yeah, I'm walking on saltwater ice right now. I haven't done that in years. If I were to jump up and down, I could go through it no problem. I don't know, maybe I'm not. Can't tell. What do you think? No, I think I'm on the ground. Barely. All right. Belly up to the bar. Here at the Wessagusset Yacht Club. And one of them umbrella drinks. All those bolts, those lag nuts are still in place, in case you guys were wondering where you put them. What do we got here? What's that say? Summer? Yeah, it's summertime. It's pretty fun. And more and more and more. How about a time lapse of that tanker going through and the sky today with the water going out this afternoon. Natural sound of the birds. Good old-fashioned winter. Just need a little more snow. Thanks for watching. Sorry it got cloudy on the day of the full moon and the Mars occultation.